Hi, I'm Michael Wyatt. I'm the founder of DivShares, an online platform that helps Australian investors find quality dividend-paying shares. So what is a quality dividend stock? These are individual companies that are financially healthy, well managed, have a sound dividend history and show potential for growth. To find and evaluate quality dividend shares, DivShares provides 3 tools which are used in succession to pinpoint those stocks that deserve deeper attention. The first of these tools is Share Search, a simple scanner that consists of only a few filters. This video shows you the purpose and versatility of each of these filters. Welcome to DivShares. When you sign up, you will have full access to all the tools and resources that make up this service. To help you become familiar with these tools, you can learn at your own pace and at no cost. When you're ready to search the share market, select one of the affordable subscription plans. For entry-level investors, I suggest you print out the beginner guides at the bottom of the Explore page. DivShares consists of 3 tools, which are used in succession to find and analyse sound dividend stocks. The first tool is a stock scanner called Share Search, consisting of only 6 simple filters. To search the share market, you'll need a basic understanding of how these filters work. Firstly, make sure you're in scanner mode by clicking on the Filters button. As you adjust the filters below, the number of prospects that make up your prospect report is shown on the right. Price to earnings ratio. Price to earnings, or PE, is a valuation ratio by dividing a company's share price by its earnings per share, earnings being another name for profit. Because we're looking for healthy companies, this filter automatically rejects all companies that made a loss last year. Don't go too high or too low to avoid troubled or overpriced stocks that can lead to a loss. A PE of 15 is considered to be a fair price. For beginners, I suggest you start with a PE between 10 and 15, aiming to find companies that are undervalued. To change the settings on any filter, just click on the minimum or maximum levels and drag it to your preferred settings. As you become more confident, increase the PE to say 20 or 25 to include good companies that are more premium priced. If you happen to forget which way to go with some of these settings, just come across to these information icons on the left and it will just give you some ideas on how to adjust each filter. Payout ratio. Next is the payout ratio, which indicates the portion of a company's profit that has been paid out as dividends. This is a scale between 0 and 100%. This end of the scale, 0, are companies that do not pay out their profits as dividends. Instead, invest that completely into the company to stimulate growth. At the other end of the scale, we have companies that pay out all profits to their investors. These are what we call the blue chip stocks. What we're looking for are companies that are rewarding their investors, but at the same time retain part of their profits to stimulate company growth. Over the long term, such companies can help investors keep ahead of inflation by providing capital and income growth. Generally, start by looking for companies with a payout ratio between 50 and 75. The next 2 filters are related to franking, which is unique to the Australian and New Zealand share markets. Franking is a tax rebate issued to investors when a company pays tax on its earnings before distributing dividends. There are 3 levels of franking. Fully franked is when company tax has been fully paid by the company. Part franked is the same, but only part of the company tax has been paid. Non-franked is when tax has not been paid, passing the tax liability onto investors at their marginal rate. Now that we have a basic understanding of franking, let's look at the next 2 filters. Target net yield. Everyone wants a good return on investments, which is more commonly known as yield. For most share markets, yield is based on the cash dividend received by investors. But here lies a potential danger for the unwary. Let's consider 2 companies issuing the same cash dividend and reporting the same yield. However, one is pre-taxed and the other is non-taxed. If a fully franked stock achieves 6% yield, the same cash dividend received from a non-franked stock will only yield 4.2%. What we need is a uniform way to measure yield, regardless of the variances in tax paid by different franking groups. That is why DivShares has created a metric called net yield, so we can compare apples with apples, enabling investors to make clear and well-informed decisions. Let's now look at the net yield filter. Below the slider is a red pointer, indicating average net yield for all companies that have paid dividends over the past year. Move the minimum yield to market average or just below. Set the maximum yield, say to 12, to reject companies reporting yields that are too good to be true, likely to be unsustainable over the long term. Franking groups. This filter is used to include or exclude individual franking groups. For beginners, maybe consider all groups. Later, if you're wanting franking credits to lower your annual tax liability, you can then confine your search to only fully franked shares. Sector and industry exclusions. Every company on the share market is appointed to a specific sector and industry. Sectors are groups of similar industries. Industries are groups of companies that share the same business activity. By excluding specific sectors and industries, we can navigate the share market. In other words, our searches can be as broad or refined as we want at the time. These 2 filters have been designed to allow you to select any permutation of these groups. Let's see how they work. Okay, so maybe I've heard there's a bit of a trouble in basic materials, and therefore I want to exclude any companies that are within that sector from my search. So I click on basic materials. That sector is now excluded. As I've clicked that sector, you'll notice that each of the industry groups within that sector are excluded. By going back and clicking on that sector again, then everything is included. At the moment, if I did a search, I would include all sectors and industries in my search. Now let's say you want to exclude particular industries. You can just hit on those industries that you want to exclude, or a little bit more broad-based, you can exclude the sector and you might say, look, I'd like to include agricultural inputs. We click that one back on, so it's included, but all other industries under basic materials remain excluded. I can then individually release those industries from exclusion. Those industries that came up before under basic materials, I can click on basic materials to exclude, which excludes the full sector. And then by clicking again, it now has wiped out those industries that were excluded. So how many prospects do we have at this time? We have 7 prospects, which is not a big sample size. A good working sample would be 30 to 35 prospects, giving us a sufficient spread so we can probably have some good ones and bad ones while we're sifting through to find out which ones are the standout stocks. Okay, so we need to do something about increasing the number of prospects that we would like to come through on our prospect report. And this is where we probably need to go back over our filters and do a little bit of fine tuning. Now, if you've been watching the market, you'll probably find that several companies lately have been a little bit soft in sales and profits. Share prices have fallen, payouts have inched up in order to uphold investor confidence. So let's go down and sort of just to give things a bit of a tweak. PE, I'm going to move the minimum setting down to say 8. There we go. Payout, let's shift that up to about 85. Net yield, let's push that down to say 5. We're going to include all franking groups in our search. And at this stage, we've got 39 prospects. Probably a little bit too many, but that's all right. Okay, at this stage, we need to go to our prospect report. That's where we go to the prospect button. We click, and here is your prospect report. So those companies that have come up through your search now appear on your prospect report and are showing a lot of information spread over the last 2 years. So at this stage, what we've done is we've taken the entire share market and we've reduced that down to just a handful of companies that fit our individual needs. On my next video, I'm going to show you how to use the prospect report to find those couple of standout stocks that deserve your deeper scrutiny. In the meantime, sign up to DivShares and start practicing. Cheers for now.